In this video, I'm going to be sharing a tutorial of how to cut this Halterneck underbust asymmetric gathered dress. Now for this particular pattern, we're going to start drafting from the front pattern. And I'm going to start by marking my shoulder to bust line, under bust, waist, and blouse length. So I added extra 7 inches after my waistline at this point. So I'll go ahead and I'll mark my shoulder divided by 2. This dress does not have a sleeve. Now I'll come down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. Go ahead to mark a basic neckline of 3 inches. After that, I'm going to go ahead to place my ruler and I'll connect. Now the next step is to go ahead to find your chest line, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches, and I'll go ahead to draw out the straight line at that point. Now what I'll do next is to mark back what I have on the shoulder or my chest line. Then I'll place my ruler and I'll draw out the straight line here. Now I'll divide what I have here into 2 and mark. From this point, I'll come out by ½ inch and go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Now I'll connect from here all the way to this point and then I'll take it all the way down. Now the next step I'm going to take is to insert my measurement. I'll first go ahead to mark my darts. So now after this, just like I said, I'll be marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2, and I'll mark this all the way from my waist. Then after my waistline, I'll come down by 4 inches. Now I'll go ahead to place my ruler and I'll connect, then connect to that point. I'll be marking a basic dart intake of ½ inch on both sides, then come down by 1 inch from my bust. Now I'll go ahead to place my ruler and I'm going to connect for my darts. Now after connecting, I'll go ahead to connect on the other side, and I'll also go ahead to extend this all the way to the other side of my pattern and this too. Now I'll start by inserting my body measurements. I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4, which is 33 inches divided by 4, I have 8.3. Then add a sewing allowance. Use any sewing allowance of your choice. Mark my waist circumference, which is 28 divided by 4, I'll mark. Then measure this dart intake here. Whatever you take out, you have to replace it. Then go ahead to add my sewing allowance. After I'm done marking that, my waist and my underbust is the same measurement. I'll mark, measure my dart intake I have here, replace and add my sewing allowance. Now on this part, on the lower part, which is 7 inches, which is also my hip point. Now this is not where the dress stopped, but for the asymmetric style we have on this dress, it is closer to this part. So now what you also have to have in mind is that whatever you subtract from this upper part of this dress, we are going to replace it with a chiffon material or whatever material of your choice you're using for the lower part of this dress. Now I'll mark my hip circumference divided by 4, then go ahead to add my sewing allowance. Now I'll go ahead to connect this. I'll go ahead to connect, then connect this back, then connect to this point. So after I'm done connecting, I'll just go ahead to cut this out and we'll be working on this pattern. So now for this part, to avoid going through the stress of going ahead to reconnect or to cut out my pattern, here is the zipper. I added like a zipper for the back. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead to place this and I'll trace it out. So because the back is also an Halterneck or like a backless dress, right? So you don't really need to do much. What I'll do is just to trace out this pattern and I'll go ahead to cut it out much later. So what I'll do now is just to mark the important areas of this pattern. I'll mark the chest line, the bust line, the waistline, because we'll be taking out our zipper bulge also. Now let's go ahead and work on this part first. Now for this part of my dress, I'm going to go ahead to mark out a basic neckline of 3 inches. So from that point, you notice that the neckline extended all the way to the underbust of this dress. Now I'll just go ahead and I will connect. After connecting from this side, you now measure whatever you want to use. You can use within 2.5 inches or 3. Now I'll go ahead to blend this to the side of my pattern, right? Now after blending it, now I'll take note of my underbust. Now I'll blend in the darts I have here, follow the lines I have here, and I'll now go up a bit. So you can go up by 1 inch, 1.5, and I will connect. Now on the underbust area of this pattern, now I'll come down by 2 inches for my waistline, and I'll start curving it to the other end. I'll blend this off this way, and I'll start taking it all the way down, right? So from here, yeah, here is 7 inches. What I'll do is I'll mark like 1 inch. You can use like 5 inches from your waistline or 6 inches. So I'm using 6 inches. So I'll just go ahead to reconnect what I have here to this point. Now if you're wondering how to get the lower part of this dress, which has like a gathers, what you're going to do is take the full measurement of your dress from here to the lower part. Let's say this dress now is about 60 inches. Now you measure your shoulder to waist plus this extra 2 inches we came down from. So if you don't want to use 2 inches, you can use 2.5 inches here. So my waist is 17 plus extra 2 inches, it will give me 19 inches, right? So I will deduct that 19 inches from 60 inches. It will now give me 41 inches. So now what I will do is I'll cut out 41 inches by 3 years, but I'll add extra like 2 to 3 inches to it, 2 inches to it, 1.5 for folding, and 1 inch to attach on this part, right? So making it, let's say I now have a total of 43 inches by 3 yards. Now you now go ahead to run a gather stitch following this asymmetric line you have here all the way to the back pattern of this dress. But after you're done doing that, that is after you're done cutting and sewing both the front and the back, that is when you will do that. Now you now run that gathers at the lower part. Now after running it, you find out that this part that is longer, the gathers there will be much longer at the lower part. What you do is take your scissors and trim it off and cut it straight. Another way to do it is to use a slash and spread method for this side, but that will be quite difficult most times. So it's best to gather your fabric. After you're done gathering it, what you now do is to go ahead to cut out, trim off the parts that you're not using, that will be in form of an excess. So I'll just go ahead and cut out my pattern. So you can go ahead and cut this out and join it together or sew it out as a dart. So whichever one that works for you. Now for the neckline of this dress, you also know that it needs an extension for the back pattern, right? For it to get to the back neckline of your dress. So we'll also get to that. So what you're going to do on this part is you're going to add additional 3.5 inches to the length of what you have here, because normally when you make a dress, the back neckline is about 3 by 1 inch. Then when you connect it, when you measure what you have for a back neckline, it's always 3.5 inches. Add an extension of 3.5 inches, and this is what you have for the front. So we've explained how to get the lower part. The next part now is to cut the back pattern. Now this is the back pattern. So after cutting this, I realized by the side of this pattern there's a little adjustment I'm going to do. Now I looked at the side of this pattern and I noticed that this did not actually end at the chest line. It went at least 1 inch down the chest line. So I'll connect it like 1 inch down the chest line, and from this part of this pattern it went up all the way to meet that point here, right? So what I'll do is to use my tape to hold down that point. So I'll just hold it down, drain it back, but I'll still cut it out. So what I'll now do is to cut from here all the way going to that point, so that when I cut my pattern at the back, it will also meet at that point. Then I'll trace out the armhole of this dress this way. So this is now what we have for the front pattern, right? So for this back pattern, we've gone ahead to like trace out the measurements. all we need to do now is to insert our measurements and remark the darts. Now what I'll do is, for my zipper, I'll start marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2, just like we did for the front pattern of this dress. So from my waistline, I'll come down by 4 inches for my dart, and I'm going to go ahead to place my ruler and I will connect. So after I'm done connecting, I'm going to go ahead to mark ½ inch on both sides of this pattern. Now I'll come down by 1 inch from my bust point. This is the waist, this is the bust point. Now I'll go ahead to connect on this side, and also connect to the lower part of my pattern. Now what I'll do is to mark that asymmetric design. So I'm coming out by 2 inches, just like we did. So it's not that this 2 inches is a constant. Go ahead to use what is okay for you. You can use 2.5, 3 inches, or 2 inches. Come down by that same 6 inches, and I'll go ahead to draw out the design at the lower part. Make sure you blend in your dart so that when you join your pattern, it will be matching. So I'll go ahead to take this to the side. Now after marking this, now remember I came down from 1 inch from my chest line. Now I'll measure and connect. So the distance between my bust and chest line is not that far. So in your case, yours might be, your bust line might be here. That doesn't really mean. So just go ahead and come down by 1 inch from your chest line. So I'm going to come down here, which is 1 inch after my chest line, and I'll make like a little curve and take it down. So what I'll now do is to go ahead to cut this out before I'll go ahead to mark my zipper board. So for this back pattern, you can just decide to like sew up your dart or cut it out also, just like we did for the front. Any one that you want to do for the back is still okay. Now for my zipper bulge on the waistline, I will come out by ½ inch, and after that I'll go ahead to take this down, then connect it all the way to the upper part. So we've also talked about how to get the lower part of this dress, which is getting your shoulder to waist to the extra 2 inches of the shorter side, then minus it from the full dress length, and then whatever you have, you gather it around the dress, and you can go ahead to trim off the part that has more excess on it.